Welcome to the Tim Booker Book Sharing channel. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our updates. Let's explore the world of books together.
Today, the book I'm decoding for you is The Sum of Small Things, written by American socioeconomic expert Elizabeth Currid-Halkett. What is this book about? In essence, it can be summarized as an investigative report on a new consumption pattern in culture. The primary focus of this study is a rising global elite class called the aspirational class. However, the intention of this book is not merely to reveal how wealthy individuals spend their money to flaunt their affluence. Whether studying macroeconomic trends or societal cultural shifts, consumption is a crucial entry point. This is because, in today's world, consumption is a major component of our lifestyle. It not only serves as an economic barometer but also reflects the social status and self-awareness of consumers. According to Halkett, consumption has become a universal code. Possessing a particular item not only grants access to its functionality but also serves as an identity symbol. By using specific products, individuals construct and showcase their social identity. Halkett describes the aspirational class as a new elite group characterized by excellent higher education, engagement in emerging industries driven by their professional skills and knowledge, resulting in both fame and wealth. Due to diverse backgrounds, professions, and perspectives, this new affluent group, termed the aspirational class by the author, exhibits distinct values and behaviors in consumption. In simple terms, they do not wish to showcase their wealth and status through traditional conspicuous consumption. Therefore, Halkett introduces the concept of inconspicuous consumption to describe their spending behavior. Now, you might wonder, what is inconspicuous consumption? To understand this concept, it is necessary to first discuss its opposite, conspicuous consumption. Renowned American economist Thorstein Veblen accurately articulated the relationship between commodity consumption and social status in his classic work, The Theory of the Leisure Class, in the 19th century. In the industrial age's modern civilized society, wealth became almost the sole indicator of social status. Veblen focused on critiquing the so-called leisure class, the primary owners of social wealth at that time. Their consumption and daily behavior aimed solely at showcasing their wealth and status, making it easily and frequently noticeable by others. This type of consumption activity, undertaken to display oneself, is known as conspicuous consumption. Veblen provided many vivid examples in his book to demonstrate that products produced for this conspicuous consumption were not primarily valued for their practicality or comfort. The core value lay in their expensiveness and the significant investment of labor and expensive materials required for their production. For instance, handcrafted silver spoons were not as polished or refined as mechanically produced counterparts and were less durable than stainless steel spoons. Another example was the tight corsets and elaborate evening gowns worn by wealthy women of that era, which were expensive precisely because they caused discomfort, showcasing that the women wearing them were exempt from manual labor. However, Halkett argues that more than a century has passed since Veblen's influential work. While some of Veblen's classic theories and concepts remain valid, our society and economy have undergone significant changes. The emergence of new economic models, particularly the booming development of high-tech and internet-related industries, has led the aspirational class to gradually replace Veblen's leisure class as the primary owners of social wealth globally. Advanced industrial manufacturing technology has created an unprecedented era of material abundance, continually lowering the prices of various goods. Even luxury brands, once exclusive to a tiny elite, are now accessible to a growing number of people, resulting in what Halkett terms the democratization of consumption and fashion. Material possessions are no longer the most reliable indicators of social status. For example, Halkett cites the introduction of Ford's affordable Model T cars in the early 20th century, making them accessible to the middle class and even workers. This marked the end of the era when cars served as symbols of upper-class status. Additionally, luxury brands have introduced various relatively affordable accessories, secondary clothing lines, and handbags to appeal to a broader consumer base. Not to mention the rise of inexpensive, fast fashion brands that imitate high-end designs using cheap materials. To provide a visual impression, let's take the familiar example of Facebook CEO and Meta chairman Mark Zuckerberg. His iconic attire, consisting of a dark hoodie, gray t-shirt, and flip-flops, has remained unchanged. Even after the company went public, Zuckerberg and his wife continued to drive a modest Acura car. Zuckerberg explains, "I really want to minimize the amount of decision-making that I have to do on a day-to-day basis outside of running the company because I feel like I'm doing a better job for the community and the world when I'm focused on our mission and building the best products." This is not to say that Zuckerberg doesn't spend money. However, his expenditures are primarily in areas not easily visible to the public, such as significant donations to hospitals, research institutions, and even funding a private school for gifted children. This type of spending is termed inconspicuous consumption. In fact, Halkett's research found that before the global financial crisis in 2008, the global upper class spent roughly the same amount on conspicuous and inconspicuous expenses. However, after the crisis, their spending on conspicuous consumption even fell below 1996 levels, while inconspicuous spending continued to rise. In today's United States, households with higher income spend more on inconspicuous consumption, both in absolute terms and as a proportion of their overall expenditures. In other words, the higher income population has gradually formed a consensus: conspicuous consumption can no longer effectively showcase their wealth and status. Inconspicuous consumption, on the other hand, can create a new, insurmountable social class divide and effectively consolidate and enhance their family's long-term position and wealth. It is deemed worthy of significant investment. However, Halkett points out that the aspirational class is not inherently low-key or uninterested in flaunting their wealth. Their demonstration of wealth and status is more often achieved through conspicuous leisure and conspicuous production, two new scenes and methods. Next, I will break down the main content of the book into two parts. First, we'll explore the core concepts of inconspicuous consumption through various cases, outlining its categories and scenarios. In the second part, we'll delve into how the rising aspirational class uses two new channels, conspicuous leisure and conspicuous production, to showcase their wealth and influence public consumption perspectives. Finally, in the conclusion, I will combine Halkett's research to discuss the profound impact of the new consumption habits of the aspirational class on global urban social structures and class mobility. Alright, let's start by exploring the essence of the gradually emerging aspirational class worldwide and their advocacy for non-flaunting consumption. Drawing on the perspective of the renowned French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu, the author emphasizes that this kind of consumption must highlight one's cultural capital, defined as a combination of aesthetics, skills, and knowledge. In other words, the goods and experiential services purchased with money must convey not only economic capability but, more importantly, the buyer's superiority in taste, education, and cultural capital, attributes that cannot be solely achieved through lavish spending. So, what types of consumption qualify as non-flaunting? Halkett provides examples in the book. One type involves paying a high information cost for consumption, such as regularly attending classic operas or symphony performances or insisting on using the US SE brand No. 162 nail polish, referred to as ballet shoes, to paint a discreet nude-colored manicure. These seemingly modest expenditures, like the ticket prices for opera or symphony performances, may not surpass those of concerts by popular music stars. Similarly, the cost of a bottle of SE nail polish is only a fraction of luxury manicures adorned with various sparkling decorations. However, engaging in classic operas and symphony performances implies a relatively refined aesthetic taste, often cultivated in affluent and cultured family environments with ample leisure time. Likewise, users of SE nail polish might not be aware that No. 162 was once a favorite of Queen Elizabeth, serving as a universal nail color among affluent women in New York's Upper East Side and London's Kensington areas. While purchasing a bottle of nail polish is easy, the subtle and intricate aesthetic behind the choice of nail color represents information and knowledge that money alone cannot buy. Why can't money alone provide access to this hidden information and knowledge? Halkett concludes that firstly, one must possess above-average endowments, including keen observation, comprehension, and persistence, qualities that money cannot buy. However, wealth is essential for the formation of cultural capital. Being in an environment that follows and appreciates this set of rules is crucial to mastering the associated knowledge and information. Thus, growing up in a culturally rich and affluent family is advantageous, as most language, thoughts, and behavioral habits are formed during childhood. In summary, taste and habits represent layers of accumulated social status and knowledge. While money plays a role, it cannot dominate everything. To illustrate this point, Halkett gives the example of reading Paul Krugman's column in the New York Times, a common habit among the aspirational class in the United States. Using Krugman's viewpoints to comment on the global economic trends is a significant topic in social interactions among the aspirational class and serves as an effective means of identifying peers. However, if someone from the lower income stratum tries to engage in these discussions, even if they have cultivated the habit of reading Krugman, they might face incomprehension and ridicule. Discussing such topics in social settings may not yield positive responses or enhance one's charm. At times, traditional flaunting consumption, to maintain a certain tone, adapts to contemporary trends, making products intentionally understated, but this often requires customers to pay higher costs. For instance, high-end jewelry has always been a focus of flaunting consumption among the wealthy. However, in the 1940s, an obscure high-end jewelry brand named JR was established, known to very few. It doesn't advertise and has no spokesperson. JR produces only about 70 pieces per year, all made to order, with designs that are not extravagant, including pieces that appear to be made of stainless steel but are, in fact, simple brooches made of platinum. Although JR's clientele is very small, it consists mostly of affluent women from the global upper class. In 2011, a pair of JR manufactured diamond spherical earrings, once owned by Hollywood actress Elizabeth Taylor, fetched $600,000 at a Christie's auction in New York. The second type of non-flaunting consumption involves spending a large amount of money in places ordinary people cannot see. According to Halkett, this consumption can be categorized into three types: labor-intensive services, expensive non-utilitarian experiences, and consumption for the enhancement of life values. To facilitate understanding, three specific examples will be used to illustrate each category. Firstly, labor-intensive services refer to services that require a large number of skilled laborers with special skills, jobs that cannot be replaced by machinery. Examples include private chefs, housekeepers, gardeners, nannies, as well as fitness trainers, lawyers, and secretaries hired by the affluent class. This is a classic, money-for-time, consumption behavior. High-income individuals outsource tedious daily tasks to save more time for themselves, either to invest in more lucrative main businesses or for leisure and self-improvement. So, what qualifies as an expensive non-utilitarian experience? Halkett mentions that the most common example is purchasing high-end customized travel services to visit places rarely seen and difficult for ordinary tourists to reach, such as Antarctica or the Galapagos Islands near the equator. A trip lasting over 20 days to these destinations costs nearly $80,000, and it doesn't offer any practical skills enhancement. Its value lies solely in allowing the traveler to shape a sophisticated image of being knowledgeable, adventurous, and leisurely composed in high-end social settings, a status symbol that money alone cannot easily attain. Of course, if we take it a step further, we have examples like Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Atlantic. Branson is passionate about ocean sailing races and hot air balloon flights. In 2021, he flew into near-Earth orbit aboard his own Virgin Atlantic Unity spacecraft. According to statistics in his autobiography, Branson has experienced 75 major and minor accidents during these expensive adventures, narrowly escaping death each time. The author of the book, Big Dog: The Origins of the Wealthy Species, Richard Conniff, says that this level of flaunting is undoubtedly elevated, being both safe and intimidating. Ordinary people don't understand these actions, perceiving no value in them, making them non-flaunting and less likely to attract excessive attention or resentment. However, for those with equal wealth and social status, Branson's risky behavior is a form of conspicuous display, prominently visible and unattainable. Lastly, let's examine consumption for the enhancement of life values. This is relatively straightforward. The simplest example is chicken parenting and spending on healthcare. According to the author's statistics, in 2014, the top-income households in the United States spent 8.6 times the national average on education, and this spending has continued to grow. In contrast, due to the 2008 financial crisis, middle-class and low-income families experienced a 50% to 70% reduction in education expenses. This give-and-take further reinforces class solidification in the United States and widens the future income gap between the next generations of different social strata. The author comments that the aspirational generation starts paying for future healthcare costs in advance through health insurance, ensuring they can afford the latest treatment plans and medications. Simultaneously, by investing in their children's education and making significant donations to institutions like universities, they secure a reserved spot for their children in Ivy League schools. In reality, the logic behind these two actions is the same, prematurely establishing a path lock to ensure both themselves and the next generation are healthier and wealthier. The scale of these expenditures is beyond the financial means of the middle class and ordinary individuals. While the middle class and ordinary people may afford luxury SUVs, designer clothing, or even vacations to the same destinations as the upper class, they cannot bear the cost of high-end health insurance and education investments made by the upper class for themselves and their next generation. These more expensive and rapidly appreciating forms of non-flaunting consumption are quickly becoming a new social class divide. Alright, now that we've introduced the new concept of aspirational class and their non-flaunting consumption, Halkett, the author, turns to the idea of flaunting, stating that it is a human instinct, and the aspirational class is no exception. So, how do they flaunt and showcase their wealth and success? Through extensive observation and research, Halkett identifies two activities, flaunting leisure and flaunting production. What is flaunting leisure? In recent years, a new American sportswear brand, Lululemon, has been rapidly rising, surpassing traditional giants like Nike and Adidas. Its core product line initially focused on yoga activewear. The founder, Wilson, notes that Lululemon's core user base consists of urban, well-educated, physically active, and financially capable young women. In the book, Halkett explains that the driving force behind Lululemon's growth is the trend of flaunting leisure activities, with yoga and Pilates as prime examples. For women, these emerging indoor fitness methods effectively showcase taste and style. Women who engage in long-term yoga or Pilates develop a distinctively tight and aesthetically pleasing physique, something not easily achieved through traditional sports. Moreover, these indoor fitness activities require substantial financial investment, covering coach fees, venue costs, and a variety of sophisticated professional gear. Additionally, considerable time investment is needed, effectively highlighting the wealth and status of the practitioner. Halkett satirically remarks that these high entry barriers are something a single mother in poverty-stricken Kentucky cannot overcome. As supporting evidence, Halkett points out that despite the 2008 financial crisis, the fitness industry in the United States continued to grow, thanks largely to continued consumption by the affluent class, whose purchasing power remained relatively unaffected. In other words, a well-toned physique with tight muscles has become a symbol of wealth and status, particularly for women. Another interesting phenomenon observed by Halkett is the transformation of parenting, an essential aspect of human reproduction, into a form of flaunting leisure. In the United States, the choice of breastfeeding or formula feeding has become a dividing line indicating wealth and social status. Wealthier and more educated women tend to prefer breastfeeding. Halkett explains that the primary reason for this situation is the mentioned information cost. Since 2011, the American Academy of Pediatrics has continuously promoted the idea that breastfeeding is superior to formula feeding, claiming benefits like a stronger immune system, fewer gastrointestinal issues, stable emotions, and even superior intellectual development for breastfed children. However, only women with higher education systematically acquired this scientific knowledge during pre-pregnancy preparation. According to Halkett's statistics, among mothers in the United States with a college degree, 17% choose breastfeeding, while among mothers with education below college level, this figure is only 9.3%. Of course, the decision for most American mothers to forego breastfeeding is not just about knowledge but also socioeconomic constraints. The rising cost of child-rearing in contemporary American society, coupled with the fact that a single income from the father is insufficient to support a family of 3, has led to more and more mothers having busy full-time jobs. However, these working-class women face numerous challenges such as short maternity leaves, insufficient rest time, inadequate mother-infant facilities in some companies, and the inconvenience of bringing their children to work. The greater the pressure on mothers, the higher the likelihood of breastfeeding failure. These factors together force most low-income mothers to opt for formula feeding. In contrast, affluent, aspirational class mothers in the United States, whether full-time homemakers or those in high-level managerial positions, invariably have more discretionary time and money to pay for expensive related costs. Examples include expert-led breastfeeding courses, more attentive maternity hospitals, and even more expensive high-end breast pumps. Moreover, the array of expensive consumption and products developed around different stages of parenting, such as prenatal yoga classes, natural childbirth coaching, and various postpartum recovery programs, forms a comprehensive product cycle allowing the aspirational class to systematically showcase their status. According to the author's statistics, the parenting expenses of the top 1% highest income population in the entire United States are nearly 10 to 20 times that of the middle class. This is why figures like Sheryl Sandberg can breastfeed 2 children while simultaneously serving as Facebook's chief operating officer, and why supermodel Cindy Crawford can regain her figure and return to work just 3 months after giving birth. In essence, these upper-class mothers can mobilize sufficient resources to deal with these challenges. As for flaunting production, it essentially involves producing products that showcase a sense of social wealth and value. These products allow consumers to showcase their social status and class during consumption, representing flaunting production. In today's consumer society, consumers increasingly value the additional value behind products, sometimes even more than the utility of the products themselves. The choices we make with consumer goods determine our social identity, and the emerging aspirational class is no exception. However, in their eyes, the additional value behind a consumer good must not only reflect their wealth or social class but, more importantly, convey a sense of empathy and concern. Therefore, many of the aspirational class engage in entrepreneurship, manufacturing, or selling various environmentally friendly and equality-promoting consumer goods. While some are genuinely committed, others use these lofty ideals as a marketing gimmick to justify the high prices and inconsistent quality of their products. Halkett gives an example of visiting a niche chain of coffee shops named Intellectuals. Here, the prices of beverages are almost comparable to Starbucks, with basic coffee priced at $5 per cup. However, Intellectuals is strict about the production and quality control of its coffee. Importantly, it claims to adhere to fair trade principles, directly trading coffee beans with growers in Africa and Central America, ensuring the growers receive more profit. Additionally, the coffee beans are manually picked to guarantee the quality and flavor of the final product. Intellectuals also sends its employees to coffee-producing regions to establish connections and trust with growers, supervising the planting and picking process to ensure workers receive sufficient income and prevent excessive environmental damage from overcultivation. Therefore, both producing and purchasing this type of coffee not only demonstrate concern for the environment but also showcase spiritual pursuits and unique taste. This represents the additional value brought about by flaunting production and consumption. Alright, the main content of The Sum of Small Things has been introduced to you here. Author Halkett, through sharp and in-depth investigation and research, has coined the precise term inconspicuous consumption and, centered around this concept, elaborated on the aspirational class. This emerging global wealth class possesses a new and unique consumption pattern and culture. Halkett's description, blending macroscopic insights with close observations, is vivid and incisive. Of course, her detailed descriptions are not aimed at showcasing the wealth of the aspirational class or promoting this form of consumption. Instead, she uses consumption as an entry point to study the overall trends in social class and wealth mobility. Additionally, she explores the long-term impacts on the majority of the global population, ordinary people. In the book's final section, Consumption Landscape, Halkett thoroughly summarizes how the increasingly prevalent, inconspicuous consumption, along with flaunting leisure and production, has reshaped our urban landscapes and social structures. Firstly, since the beginning of the 21st century, cities that serve as service and consumption centers have experienced a revival. The previous major population, low-income laborers, has gradually moved out, and the new generation of urban residents is increasingly dominated by elite workers in high positions with high salaries. They are willing to pay high urban living costs for convenient commuting and more consumption choices. This has resulted in the formation of their own fixed social circles within the city, contributing to more comparison behaviors and sustaining the prosperity of the new form of inconspicuous consumption. Large cities have not only become centers for economic and information transactions but have also formed social islands, primarily composed of the high-income class. These city islands are closely interconnected and share similar qualities, but they have little connection with surrounding areas. This gradually forming global chain of major city islands creates most service demands and consumes the majority of high-priced goods, further widening the gap with rural and other low-income regions. It is evident that after listening to Halkett's narrative, we are left with a sense of weightiness and a conclusion. Through this new consumption and lifestyle pattern, the gap and deviation between the elite class, ordinary people, and even the middle class in the United States have not narrowed but widened. Compared to the past conspicuous consumption, the core of so-called inconspicuous consumption, such as education, sports, healthcare, and parenting services, is actually a more expensive and unfair competition for ordinary Americans and the middle class. The resulting differences in the new American social class cannot be concealed or eliminated through simple commodity purchases or individual efforts. What's worse is that the American aspirational class, in controlling and influencing the fate of others, far surpasses the traditional affluent class that was once keen on conspicuous consumption. This is not only because of their large numbers but more importantly because they, leveraging new technologies and products they design, can exert unprecedented influence on the daily lives of people worldwide. The most obvious examples are tech giants like Jobs, Zuckerberg, and Musk. In the concluding part of the book, Halkett summarizes that from a broad perspective, the days for ordinary Americans are undoubtedly tough, and the middle class is increasingly sinking. The wealth distribution pattern in American society is becoming increasingly unfavorable to them, and the upward channels in American society are being increasingly blocked by the new rules created by the aspirational class. In essence, the title of the book, The Sum of Small Things, can be interpreted as how the aspirational class, in America, as the new elite, adjusts the subtle rules of wealth and identity display to ensure their positions and advantages are unassailable. That covers the essence of this book. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom and practice, achieve our financial goals, and create a better future together. Thank you, everyone, goodbye.